Coming up on Mississippi Roads, we look back at wood sculptor Floyd Shaman, visit a bonsai tree nursery in Olive Branch, and a wood turner in Wiggins. All that coming up now on Mississippi Roads.
Down Mississippi Road, Mississippi Road.
Hi, welcome to Mississippi Roads. I'm Walt Grayson. All except this week we're kind of off-road. We're in the Bienville National Forest in Scott County. It's one of 6 national forests that we have here in Mississippi. And in Bienville, there's over 178,000 acres of primarily oaks and pines. And it's beautiful in here, especially this time of the year in the fall. You know, a lot of beautiful things come from trees, and that's what we're focusing on this episode, are beautiful creations made of wood and the talented people who create them. And our first story is a look back at a notable sculptor whose whimsical ideas and his talent live on in his works of art in wood. Here's Floyd Shaman.
One of my favorite pieces is a little wooden mosquito that he carved. I got it right here. It's a toe made out of mesquite. Just as humor at work, so he carved a little wooden mosquito. And people first think the little insect that bites you, but it's a toe made out of the wood mesquite. So just that's kind of how his mind worked.
Floyd Shaman was an artist. He was a sculptor from Wyoming, and he was a professor at Delta State from around 1970 to 1980.
The second year of college at Delta State, I switched my major from sociology to art. And I think that was Floyd's first year to teach sculpture there. So he was my sculpture teacher, or maybe he was my 3D teacher at first. Being from a conservative part of the country, I felt that he was the most interesting teacher out there. It wasn't that he was extreme in any way, but he was so creative that he made us just open our eyes to new things.
I went to Delta State in 1971 as a major in, actually at that time it was commercial art. But I took a 3D design class from Floyd, and he had us unusually, for now I realize it's unusual, he had us carve alabaster in a 3D design class, which the way we teach 3D design here is cut paper. but I became a sculptor from that moment, and it was because of him, yeah.
I think the interacting with the students and that part of the job he really enjoyed. He really did not like all the administrative work. He wasn't very happy with that, and some of the restrictions that were placed on them artistically and otherwise. And so he taught at Delta State until 1979 or 1980, and left to go out and just do sculpture full-time on his own.
My children, who have always been very supportive of me, as well as my wife, were going to high school here, and actually my oldest son was ready to start college. And so we decided to stay here until all the kids had gone to college and finished college at least, and by now we're pretty much part of the community.
I was trained as a stone carver, actually, and I moved to Mississippi, and there wasn't any stone to be had, but there's a lot of wonderful logs. So I started carving logs, and there's a couple of problems with carving logs. One is that they are not cured, so when you put them indoors, they generally split. And also, you really don't have the ability to extend the shapes very far. You're tied into this tight configuration always.
And so he started buying shelving pine at the lumber yard and gluing that together, cutting shapes out. So that's kind of how he developed into that laminated wood process. And that early on in the early 70s, he kind of transitioned through that and just kind of refined it over the years.
So he was able to take the shapes and he could actually change the wood color, the wood tone, different types of wood to give it that variation that he loved. Now, being able to see the strata in some of these is what makes them, I think, more of an art form than if it had just been one solid color.
He would go out to the studio and work hard and really started seeing some success. Had a lot of success up in New York area. I think the local galleries were good for him. There's one in Vicksburg, the Attic Gallery, Southside Gallery up in Oxford. There was a gallery up in Memphis and Jackson, Tennessee. And then also over in Little Rock, there was a gallery. She really did well selling his work there.
I don't think there's much Southern influence in my work. I would hope that it's more universal than that. Of course, there are Southern things. I do a lot of watermelon things, which I guess are Southern, but you can eat a watermelon in Canada, I suppose, so that's no big thing. My work primarily deals with the human figure, the human condition, and in the past few years, I've done quite a few animal pieces.
Well, he was drawn on his influence from living in the West, so you see a lot of that in his work. You see cowboys and Indians and Western figures. You see a lot of just real people he encountered in his life.
I like this part of it because it's very controlled.
He continued to work as much as he could. He usually had several different pieces going on. He got cancer and he thought he had it beat, and then before we knew it, it had come back just with a vengeance and took him pretty quickly. And that was in '05. Mom had diabetes, and just eventually the diabetes just took its toll on her body, and that was 2010.
She was a weaver and she made rugs and wall hangings and that kind of thing, and she sewed, and it was good for both of them. You know, her being creative and my dad being creative, that's a good environment for them both to work in, but she was very supportive of my dad. Once Dad passed away, we wanted to do what we could to kind of keep his work in the public eye. So we talked to the Mississippi Arts Commission about what do we do with all this art, and they suggested talking to the Lauren Rogers Museum first, because it's such a beautiful museum and it's in Mississippi, and it just would be such a great place to have his work.
He had an exhibition here at the Lauren Rogers Museum of Art in 1978, and it was kind of the first time that this part of Mississippi got a chance to see it. And we're in the middle of the piney woods, so any exhibition that does with anything with woodworking is kind of going to be of interest to us. And so he's been one of those artists we thought it'd be great to kind of reintroduce not only to this part of Mississippi but to the whole state.
And I think we had 10 or 12 big pieces there in the show, and very, very appreciative to them for doing that. And they did ask us if they could keep one of the pieces of the inventor for their permanent collection. And so I've also been reaching out to different museums around the country, and we have recently been able to place a piece with the Booth Western Art Museum north of Atlanta in Cartersville, Georgia. And that's a piece, Spike Finds Romance. And then also the National Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma City. We've placed a piece called Annie Oakley there. The Ogden Museum of Southern Art in New Orleans, a couple of years back, we were able to place a piece with them, Carla announcing. I guess I just hope that, if we're able to place his work in some of these more prominent museums, that people will get to see his work and appreciate it, and that he's known as a capable, talented artist, and that he's just not forgotten in the dust of time.
He's still kind of a presence, whether he is physically here in this world or not. And I would say the same about Molly, both of them. They were just two people that had such an impact on a wide variety of others. and his work is just, it does stand the test of time.
I don't have anything else. Is there anything else you wanted to
I don't
say?
think, I think we've pretty well covered. What do you think?
Well, sculpted wood can take on many forms. I mean, it can be made into anything. And it's a great outlet for passion and creativity, sometimes even meditation. In our next story, we visit a place where the sculptures are not made of the wood of trees, but are made from the trees themselves.
We're probably the biggest and best place at having bonsai from 2 years old to 300 years old. The end result is a tree that looks like it was plucked out of nature. So the more character they have, the better. But technically, you can bonsai anything. So it's the techniques you apply that make it a bonsai. So some trees naturally grow that you can collect out of the wild that will become a bonsai, but as a rule, you have to apply bonsai techniques like put a little piece of wire on it or trim a branch to grow in a certain direction. So bonsai, in essence, is the real good bonsai are trees that have been worked on, but you don't really notice it. So it's a combination of grow, clip, you have to be patient, it takes a while, you don't do them overnight, and knowing when to do it and knowing how to. So it's techniques and knowing how to apply them, basically. You know, you want to learn what makes a plant tick first. There's no good bonsai unless it's a live bonsai. So a lot of people kind of get the cart ahead of the horse and they want to get a nice tree, but yet they don't know how to take care of it. So trying to educate people to get them to where they understand you need to bend to a bonsai, not let a bonsai bend to your lifestyle.
They are pets. Basically, they are pets. You've got to do something to them every day. You've got to water them every day. You've got to fertilize them. If you're doing it right, you're probably fertilizing weekly. You have to prune them, trim them. You got direct growth. There's never a day, except in the winter when everything's dormant, that you don't have to do something to them.
You get attached to them. I mean, I kind of call it like a pet, but once you get a tree and you've had it 10 years, you feel kind of responsible. You don't want to, kill it.
Oh, the quality of the material here that you can find and buy here is, without exception, the best that there is in the United States, and all in one spot. And then the level of instructions that you can get here is as good as it gets.
Bonsai is the technique. It's what you do to a tree. It's not any particular kind of a tree. So it can be a pine, a juniper, a maple, an elm, ficus. So, the fact that you can control the growth, control the habit, and create a tree or a piece of nature in miniature over time, it's just pretty cool.
Bonsai is not something that you do one time and it's finished. It's the little tiny things you do daily that make it what it is. And you add the refinement, you add, it just gets better over time if you do it correctly.
It takes about 5 or 6 years to make a nice, presentable bonsai. So it's just, to me, it's just a cool way to watch nature and mature in a form, and you control it.
That's a very meditative thing for me, and it's different for everyone, but I can sit down and start working on a tree and in the morning, and all of a sudden it's in the afternoon, and it seems like it's all taking place in a sort of a quiet, meditative mood. And for me, it's a meditative thing, and not really know what time it is or where the time went, and be continually working on the trees and just having a great time.
So it's really a way to apply any kind of talent or creative talent you have into a living plant. And it just intrigued me that it's a combination of art and nature. I like to hear somebody that says, hey, I bought a bonsai from you a year ago and it's doing great and I'm back to buy 5 or 6 more, or I'm ready to start a whole collection. So our real key is to give them a product and then give them all the information, the proper information, to make sure they're successful.
The skill to take a piece of wood and turn it into something beautiful is really a gift. Now, wood turning is a different form of wood sculpting in that you use a wood lathe to carve symmetrical patterns into a block of wood. In our next story, we visit with a man who has taken wood turning and turned it into something very practical, even inspirational.
The hardest part in wood turning is figuring out what you want to do and then sticking to that, because there's so many avenues that are pulling you in a different direction to try something different. I do bowls and hollow forms, do pins, pepper grinders, salt and pepper shakers, but I mostly prefer bowls. They just feel right, they're functional. The figure of the wood just pops. Beautiful wood. I've been turning about 7 years. Was turned on to it when I was up at Branson. Went to Silver Dollar City and saw a young Marine wood turning, and he picked up a piece of wood that looked like a piece of firewood, put it on this machine that I didn't even know what the machine was. I'd never seen a lathe before. And it turns, and he puts a knife to it, and he cuts it. I was just really impressed with it. I really fell in love with it.
Scott was mesmerized by it. And I said, well, I'll go ahead and look at the other exhibits. I'll come back in a few minutes. Well, an hour and a half later, he's still standing there watching this veteran turn, and he said, I'm going to do this. I said, honey, I don't think you can just do that. I think you have to have a talent. And he said, well, I'm going to try. So he came home immediately, signed up for a wood turning class, and brought home the most beautiful bowl. And so I said, you have the talent. So I said, let's run with it. So that's what we did. He started turning at home and selling online, selling locally. And then he said, you know, it'd be nice if folks could come in and watch me turn, and we could serve them a cup of coffee. So I said, okay, and then I ran with it.
So we opened the shop about 2 years ago. I needed to move out of my garage. I was tired of getting caked up sawdust on my forearms in the middle of the summer, this Mississippi humidity. And so I told my wife, I said, hey, let's open up a shop, and if it fails, I'm still turning in air conditioning, so I'm happy.
This was originally just going to be his studio, but this has just turned out to be a really nice place for the community as well as for us. Folks enjoy coming here to just meet with friends, relax. Students like to come and study. They say they can study better here. They say it feels like home.
Coming here for us is a sense of family. Mr. Maddox and Miss Jane Ann, they're both like family. And all the employees here, they treat everyone with the utmost respect. And one thing that we love about coming here is so diverse. You have artwork, you have wood turning, you have great coffee, great ice cream. So it's a little bit of everything, a little piece of heaven for everyone. I just moved back to Wiggins last summer in June, and I found this place. I had no idea the coffee shop was here. And so from the first day I walked in, I was in love at home. I tell people, if you're from Stone County or if you're passing through, you have to stop by the coffee shop at Southern Turning. It's like a Hallmark movie every day, all day. Just warms your heart, you know? So my daughter came in with me one day and noticed Mr. Scott Maddox doing wood turning. And at that point, neither of us knew what wood turning was. I'd never seen a lathe in my life. So she took an interest and he let us know that he did lessons.
Really, I'm a retired school teacher, also being retired military too, but my last career was teaching school, and I love teaching, I love kids, and I really wanted to create a vocational school as well as a restaurant around it. And so I had in my mind something like Gatlinburg. You know, you can go up and watch the taffy pull and the making of candies and all kinds of things. So that's what I had in my mind when we finally came into this store. And so I have a little room where it has plate glass windows and people can come in, have coffee and cheesecake, and watch me make things. And so it's really been a win-win proposition for me. I've got a couple of students, and they can come in, and their parents can sit out there and watch their students make things, and so it works out real well.
I like the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel happy and joyful, but it's also dangerous at the same time, so it gives me a little fear, but it's really fun.
Kyla came to me in the 6th grade and wanted to start wood turning. And I was a little hesitant because that's a little young, but I went ahead and brought her on, and she has been making pins to sell to raise money for leadership schools. Now she's raising money for her college, and she's really enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to where she's going to be taking her wood turning skills later. I'm really hoping that I don't want to lose a student, but I do hope she'll get her own lathe and be able to branch out and really grow in this craft.
I never thought I'd have a 12-year-old daughter who's an entrepreneur, business owner, you know, really doing this. Like, she's doing this, and she's 12. She fell in love with wood turning, and so I literally have to give credit to Scott Maddox for everything, because he's taken her under his wing and taught her so much about wood turning, and just taught her that there's more to life than, you know, playing basketball, playing sports. Academics, of course, come first, but there's so much more out there, and that she can do it. She can do whatever she puts her mind to. So I'm super proud mama moment for sure.
I like coming here after school every day. It's really fun.
What? I teach for the satisfaction of seeing somebody get it, to see that light bulb go off and see them create something and make something. It's the same for, I think, any teacher, to see the fruition of everything you do, all the steps, all the rigorous steps that you take to get there, and see that student arrive. For me, that's what it's all about. It's about them and seeing them succeed. I think any teacher would tell you that's what it's all about for them. You know, every piece of wood has a story behind it. If you look into the wood and the figure and the growth patterns, you'll find that maybe it went through a hurricane or had periods of drought.
Scott loves to see what each piece of wood holds. You never know when you start turning a piece of wood and you start with a gouge exactly what nature's going to reveal. He doesn't necessarily plan the piece of wood when he first starts. He just kind of lets it take its own shape, and he tries to expose the beauty within. He loves to rescue wood. He loves to find wood that's been discarded, or it's part of a fallen tree that was diseased or either blown down by a storm. And he likes to take it and make something beautiful out of it that will last forever.
What I love so much about the wood turning is that every piece of wood is different. And even the piece of wood that looks like it needs to go on the fire pit, if you take that piece and spend a little bit of time with it, what you reveal is striking. And I kind of relate it to my own faith. You know, we are broken, we're sinful, and we're renewed by His grace. And I kind of look at my wood turning the same way. You can get a piece of wood that just, you think the worms have gotten to it, it's punky, it's really ready for the fire pile, but when you get done with it, it's beautiful. And for me, that's what it's about. It's repurposing something that's meant to be thrown away.
That's all the time we have for our visit to Bienville National Forest. If you'd like information about anything you've seen, contact us at mpbonline.org/Mississippi Roads. And like our Mississippi Public Broadcasting Facebook page. And check out our Mississippi Roads Facebook page. Till next time, I'm Walt Grayson. I'll be seeing you on Mississippi Roads.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.
You know, we really enjoy bringing you Mississippi Roads every week, and we really appreciate you watching. And tell you what else we appreciate, too, is those of you who contribute generously to Mississippi Public Broadcasting. Because when you do, you not only keep shows like Mississippi Roads on the air, but all the other productions MPB does. Please go to our website, mpbonline.org, and click Donate Now in the top right corner. Thank you for helping us serve our state. Because like we say, Mississippi is our mission.